Hey guys, we're back with episode 441, part 2 of the compressed natural gas portable pipelines. And we are joined with Chief Dan Baker, Chief Dave Massaro. I apologize, that was bad. I'm sorry. I should know your name. We've been talking forever. And Fire Protection Specialist Chris Gould. Welcome back. I am joined once again with Mike. How are you?
Hey guys.
So,
thanks for having us.
we were just talking about the incidents in Schenectady. And now we got some videos, which everybody loves this kind of stuff. So, ready? Let's
So
ready.
My boss is not, but I am.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. You know, this stuff is tricky, and Chief Massaro and I, we had a lot of debate about this operation and the risk benefit analysis. And at the end of the day, this was what we decided was the best course of action.
Wow.
Yeah.
So each one of those tanks has to be individually bled, even though it was part of a cascade system.
Correct. That cascade system was damaged during the wreck, and with industry reps on the scene to support us, we determined that it was best to deal with each tank individually, and this is how we were able to do it. In
Wow.
the previous episodes, you've talked about physical properties, and man, this is gas, this is cold air, this is moisture in the environment. It was snowing that day. These are two of the evolutions where we dumped approximately 30 of the tubes to atmosphere. What it doesn't do is it doesn't show you the 10 feet that you have to scramble over the rocks to get out. The
Sure.
rocks that we had to throw into that hole so it wasn't 2 feet deep and it was only 6 inches deep. So
I have a couple of comments on this. That is amazing footage, first off. So kudos to you, Chris. Nice job on that. Second off, I know there's going to be people out there to be like, well, you know, is the risk worth it? And the thing is like, sometimes you just got to do some gangsta stuff.
It's got to be done, right? Like that has to be done. So even though you're looking and you're like, oh, those guys are deep inside the product, you do all of the risk benefit analysis and you minimize everything you can, right? So you take away the sources of ignition, you make sure that everything is as stable as possible before you have guys climbing on. And sometimes you just got to turn a valve and hope for the best.
And, all right, so this probably evacuated quickly.
I'm going to let Chief Massaro talk about this too, but you know, Mike, to your point, we had some pretty healthy debate about this, and I mean, I got to say, I have a great deal of respect for Dave, and we worked together quite a bit. But to say that the two of us were apprehensive about putting our folks downrange in this situation would be an understatement.
I could only imagine.
In the background, though, to your point, Mike, we had ignition sources controlled. We had say it again.
Hose lines in place.
Hose lines in place, right? We had backup hose lines in place. We had a pretty large safety perimeter around the scene. The terrain helped with that quite a bit because other than being physically on the bridge, you couldn't really get that close to the incident. We had the traffic, you know, shut down and controlled, and we eliminated every other potential hazard other than folks were going to have to be pretty close to that gas when they were initially venting that product. And as you noticed in the video, as it's coming out of the cylinder, the rapid decompression is causing it to be pretty cold. And as is evidenced by the water vapor that was condensing there's gas with the responders for a very short period of time. So that was a definite serious consideration for us.
And this is where things like, you know, like I saw that the one guy had a flashlight on, right? So this is where you really have to make sure that everything going into that scene is meeting that intrinsic safety, you know, standard, because there's so many times that we just get stuff and we're like, yeah, okay, well, when am I going to be working in a flammable atmosphere, right? They always say, oh, you should never work in a flammable atmosphere, that you should leave the atmosphere if it's flammable. But that was a perfect example of a time that you literally couldn't. So literally everything going into that scene needed to fall within that intrinsic safety category.
It is excellent. I honestly, and you can see the bridge, and I love that you guys put a meter up and under the bridge because, you know, as we talk about heavier than air gases going down and pocketing in low-lying areas, well, the bottom of the bridge has pockets. you know, and the fact that you guys addressed that beforehand, I honestly, there's no, I mean, what else can you do?
And like I said, Bobby, it's tough to see, but the trailer actually was 3/4 of the way under the bridge, at least. Like it was right there. The pictures don't really show it, but it's underneath the highway overpass. And when you talk about critical infrastructure for our part of the state, that's definitely one. So
Well,
damaging the bridge, not an option for us.
I want to give kudos on a little on this video because I don't think unless it's pointed out, a lot of people are going to recognize. But there was a tremendous amount of planning that went into this. There was predicting behavior, there was understanding chemical physical properties, and there was understanding cause and effect. Because you guys have these firefighters staged in a line, and they're one by one triggering the cascade and then walking out. Had this not been planned properly, you could have had people in a total like whiteout situation.
Yeah.
But this is literally, you guys are doing systematic line by line, understanding what was going to happen, understanding the chemical physical properties, understanding physical interaction with water vapor. Opened up a cylinder, the area whited out, that firefighter walked away, leaving the next firefighter to be able to visually see, open it up, and walk out. If that wasn't planned correctly, you could have just had 5 firefighters in total whiteout conditions, you know, trying to stumble through a rocky stream. So I don't know if anyone else would have necessarily picked up on that, especially if they're not watching the video, but that's pretty strategic, pretty good strategery, if you ask me.
I'll let Chris comment on this, Mike, but you know, this was the product of multiple safety briefings and meetings, and myself, the chief, and the fire chief locally putting our heads together along with Chris and some of the other experts that were on the scene. And then I want Chris to explain this because this was super. That whole thing was choreographed and rehearsed prior to turning valves, and I'll let Chris talk a little bit about that.
One of the great challenges that we encountered was there's at least 10 of those cylinders were above height and you had to work on a ladder in order to turn the valve. Some of them were below grade in the mud, and they had to work on getting in and out first, as well as be protected and be ready to understand how they were getting out so that they didn't trip, fall, and we had to drag them out.
And like I said, they went and did a dry run before each of those venting procedures. Chris had the guys arranged in place, you know, transit in, pretend to turn the valve, transit out. That was all rehearsed prior to us actually going live. And that was, you know, what you saw in the video was, you know, like the final take, you know?
Yeah, well, it was executed beautifully.
And then, you know, walk through it in several dry runs before they turned the valves. It didn't mean that the chief and I didn't have our hearts in our throat when they did it.
Of course.
It went well.
Unbelievable.
It'd be very important for us to miss this part. There is a significant volume that's associated with the pressure release of a CNG trailer. There is no volume to the video, but we were all wearing hearing protection. We couldn't hear radio transmissions. Once we started turning, my first transmission was at the top of the hill, climbed up the top of the hill and just say, we're out. If they were lucky, they could see us from the top perspective, but I wasn't going to be able to talk to them until I got to the very top. Even with AVCOMs, even with hearing protection.
Did you have a like an extrication team in place just in case, like, they slipped off the ladder, fell in? Like, was all that in place and rehearsed as well?
Yeah, we had a team ready right at the top of the entry off the bridge. And then we relied on like some tactile feedback as well. I don't know if you saw in the video, but knowing that we couldn't hear anything and knowing that visibility would be low, Chris and the chief came up with the idea of that first person who opens the valves taps the second person. So that second person knows that they're clear and then it's their turn to open the valve. And if you watch the video, you could see them go down the line.
Yeah, I could see that. That's where I was like, oh, this was very well put together.
I also saw that towards the end, one of the state guys gives an okay hand signal, which, you know, in diving or technical rescue, that means I'm ready. And so, yeah, you could tell everybody had a clear communication plan on this one.
So
Yeah,
when
we
you,
had a vantage point from the bridge, as with the command staff that was watching the whole thing. We had either the good fortune or the bad fortune to be able to see the whole thing in real time from a safe distance away because of where the trailer was located. And so that final all clear, that was quite a relief. But that again was all rehearsed, and to the credit of Chris and the city of Schenectady and county hazmat team folks for putting that together. That was well done.
so was that a mix of technicians and operations guys doing that? Was it all technicians? Was it? Yes.
I believe it was all
It-
technicians.
It was
All technicians?
wasn't it?
It was all technicians
Yeah.
doing that
All
work.
technicians, yeah. All right, clearly they knew what they were doing. No, I could just imagine like telling guys, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and they're like, you want us to do what? How about you get down there and turn the valve?
Oh, all right. So that was one incident that is visually incredible. Was there? You said there was two, right? There was another one that was interesting. Should we get to that one?
Absolutely.
Also visually pleasing.
Yeah,
I don't like
very,
this.
very
Also, of course, you know. All right, we're getting over to that slide, and let's flip it back. Okay.
So
Take a
the
look.
video that's here, I don't have the rights to, and
That's
we'll
all right.
get appropriate credit where credit is due.
It's okay. It's for
Yeah, I'll put it in the
education
show notes.
purposes.
Wow. Now, paint the picture. Where is this? Obviously, it's nighttime.
So this is a residential neighborhood that has a road that goes through it with a 10-foot underpass.
Correct.
And that is a train going across that overpass.
Wait, did
There's a
this?
train across it?
How are they okay with that? Did this happen with the train going over, or what? Was the train not able to be stopped? Like, what the hell?
So if you guys want to hear a really weird one, and I don't know how you want to edit this, one of the fellows that we work with at State Fire, who's in another branch, he's not in hazmat, his brother was driving the train. So we had the inside scoop here, because the next day we found out that one of our fire protection specialists' brother was driving the train. They had no idea what had happened. They heard the explosion and they saw the fire, but they were pulling a grain manifest. And so they were pretty sure they weren't on fire. So without knowing what else to do, they just kept going. So the train was passing across the bridge. The impact is made. The fire starts.
Oh, so with the train going across the bridge, that is when everything happened. So it's not like the guy it was burning and then the train came. Wow, that okay.
And they were at,
Any
like, what car was it? They like 56,
Yeah, I think so.
56, 58. They were like better than halfway through the train when the impact happened and the fire occurred. And the conductor of the locomotive was like, "What the heck was that?" Like, I don't know. We're gonna
Gotcha.
keep going.
Gotcha. So it was a train underpass that they hit. I'm assuming that it was just a little too low for the vehicle. One of those oopses.
It was a lot too low.
Yeah.
A lot too low.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. It wasn't like he almost made it.
Yeah, I mean, I duck in my Jeep when I drive under it. So
I mean, I guess that would explain then, right? If you're doing a size up and you're walking up to this, that would make sense with the amount of fire that you have, because you have a tremendous amount of damage to a lot of these cylinders. So we've got a lot of product coming out all at once. Is that am I getting close to the right size up?
So the trailers themselves are designed to vent in completion at a specific temperature. I believe it's
Oh, okay.
20.
So the fusible plugs all went at
Correct.
the same time.
Then
Okay,
we had
that
to
makes sense.
verify that actually happened.
So, all right. So
So we
I'm
did
thinking
it
about this. I'm seeing this video for the first time, and I'm like, okay, it's on fire, and yeah, there's a train going over, but the train will go by, and then you're like, okay, just let it do its thing. But now I'm thinking to myself, I just lost an entire train like bridge.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. How does that? So I know that we had a propane vehicle on Long Island many, many years ago under the Saginaw Coast Expressway. I don't know if you guys, any of them remember it. And it literally destroyed the bridge for a year, I think, before they could rebuild it. When you do that, you know, we often would say in a situation like that, I would just be like, whatever, let it burn, right? But now we have really critical infrastructure that needs to be protected. Was there, I mean, by the time you even get something set up, I'm imagining everything will have already went. What was the thought process? Did you guys do non-intervention, or was there an active, we're going to try to put this out, or at least keep the bridge cool?
No, so kudos to the initial arriving fire departments. They immediately set up a large diameter hose and deluge guns and, tried to cool the bridge down as best they can while allowing the product to burn.
Good for them.
They did a great job.
Good for them. Were they
They
able to
also
save the
had a
bridge?
challenge of identification that they couldn't identify the trailer because the placards burned off. So
Okay.
they had no clue what the product was. They had an idea of the trailer. They could have been propane, it could have been gas, and then they had diesel leaks on top of that. They had a catastrophe that was happening in their community, and they responded in the best way that they knew how, and they put water on the problem. We go to a time period. These trailers take about an hour to release, either by fire or by evacuation to atmosphere.
Wow.
About an hour.
Even with the
And
fusible
also,
plugs
in
going.
this situation, non-reclosable valves. So once that trigger is pulled, either there's two ways that valves can be triggered, either from heat, which allows there's actually a tensioned wire inside of the trailer that holds tension on the safety valve, and when that wire is elongated, either by a cylinder leaving the premises and breaking it, or by the heat allowing the wire to extend, basically the guts fall out of the valve, and the valve is then open to atmosphere until it's done. They're not reclosable.
Now,
So
is
the
there
venting
any
atmosphere,
fear?
the ensuing fire, that was a given. That wasn't able to be changed, and it's not like a propane transport where if the pressure goes down, the valve is going to reseat. That doesn't happen.
It's done.
So,
It's open.
all that water was a big plus.
Now, having talked about the, for lack of better words, lightweight construction of many of these cylinders, and the fact that you're saying it takes an hour for them to release, which means that technically they're under pressure for that entire hour. I'm going to use the wrong term on purpose so people can convey the idea or can get the idea that I'm saying, but is there ever a fear of these cylinders blevying? Again, I know I'm using the wrong word because it's a compressed gas. I guess it would be more of a sudden heat-induced tear. But that kind of catastrophic failure of the cylinder while under pressure, under tremendous heat.
Would you like a visual of this?
Oh, my God, you have a visual?
I love this.
okay.
So the first visual is the ERG, and I apologize. This was last ERG, though not the newest one that came out 2 days ago. It says ruptured cylinders may rocket. And I'm going to get to the next slide. And that's the distance to cylinders is over 350 feet because I measured it by Google Maps. So there's two of them that exceeded 350 feet. If you look at the image on the right, you'll see an indentation in the ground. That indentation, this is a photo that I took. It's approximately 6 to 8 inches deep. And then leaning up against the shed, it's the cylinder.
Wow.
Hole, not anywhere near any of the fittings, that was big enough for my fist to fit in.
In golf, we call that a divot.
Oh.
Wow. So that thing went,
This
I
wasn't-
mean, obviously
This
vertical.
wasn't the only one.
No,
it looked like a yard sale next to this trailer. There were a number of cylinders in various locations. Some of them still on fire. It was a pretty right, Chief. It was apocalyptic.
Oh,
When you
very
walked
much
up
so.
there, I mean, there was debris everywhere. Cylinders that had left the trailer. Debris from the trailer. How high was that one piece of the trailer?
About 80 feet, we think.
80 feet up in a
Oh my
tree.
God.
And it sounds funny when we talk about it like this, but remember, we got responders walking around the scene with this
Yeah.
stuff suspended in the trees over their heads. Like, talk about an added hazard that you just normally don't think about. You don't normally think about looking up when you're at a highway emergency. And in this case, very necessary. There you go. The center of that slide, you see that piece of metal way, way up in the tree. How big is that, Dave?
That panel is side to side of the intermodal container, and then it's probably 3 feet,
Probably, yeah.
so
Yeah.
8 feet by 3
8 by
feet.
3. Piece of
Weighs
metal.
70 pounds, give or take.
That,
80
I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty impressive. That is
Not only
definitely.
that, Mike, we had to walk when we were accessing the scene. One of the paths that responders were taking to get from where it was safe to where it was less safe was under those trees. Right. So making sure that folks had a wherewithal to kind of take in sort of a 3-dimensional view of the scene to make sure that they were identifying all the hazards and not focusing on the very spectacular event that was happening in front of them. That was another takeaway from this type of incident where you have pressurized cylinders doing strange things. The debris can be anywhere.
Right. I mean, we have definition of shrapnel up here, but there's also the amount of pressure that it would have had to take to do what is happening. If you have anyone nearby, even if they're not getting hit with a shrapnel, they're getting hit with a pressure wave, which from explosives, we understand that it only takes a couple psi of a pressure wave to start to do some serious damage inside of a body. So I would imagine that within a couple of feet of this release, you were at least lethal levels of pressure wave.
Yep, the pressure, the heat, all those things. But I want to circle back if you'll so indulge me, and if you'll let Chris show one more video. You guys asked about the bridge and infrastructure, big issue, right?
Totally.
So the railroad brought in their engineering experts, and they did a whole bunch of assessments, and then they actually tested the bridge. While we were there, they asked if we wanted to see them test the bridge, so of course we stayed to see it. This is how they test it.
Oh. And I see Bob or Joe or John volunteered for this mission.
We're good.
So there are 2, what they consider road locomotives, 6-axle locomotives at 440,000 pounds apiece that they put on the bridge very slowly and in a controlled environment. But I talked to the guy driving, and he said that he actually drew the short straw that day.
He did.
That wasn't a job people were volunteering for. So,
wow,
That's how they tested.
they literally drove locomotives over the bridge.
When I said an engineer, I didn't mean that engineer. I meant a real engineer.
I was thinking like the whole drawing and math and maybe a calculator.
They had, all joking aside, it was really interesting. We stayed way past the hazmat part because we were curious about this. And so they did bring in a whole team of engineers, measurements, looking at the damage to the concrete and to what was basically giant hunks of granite that were holding this bridge up, and then the steel. And this bridge was over 100 years old and apparently very well built, because they were minimally concerned, right, Chief? That was they were like, yeah, we're probably good. We're going to take a couple measurements. They made some chalk marks, and they're like, let's go get a train.
I think this will work. That's pretty cool.
That is really cool. I'm going to have to do a little recording in the beginning of these. Say, these 2 episodes are incredibly visual, and you need to watch these because just listening is not going to give you the ooh-ah factor right here.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Turns
Guys,
out, every once in a while, upstate, strange stuff happens here too.
Yeah, I didn't even really know there was an upstate.
Yeah, north of the Bronx, I thought it was just trees and cows.
Mountain area. We're not talking Yonkers.
Right. We're above Niagara.
Oh, Yonkers is upstate. I don't understand what the issue is here. For those of you that don't know, there's always a big battle between the upstate guys and the downstate guys in New York. So we're just having some fun off that.
I gotta say, very impressive stuff. Well worth the watch, listen, whatever it is. I gotta say thank you, all of you guys, for coming on and sharing this, because I have a feeling a lot of people, especially in the more urban settings, have never seen this. Even the Well, as Chief Baker was saying, like I remember right before COVID, there was talk of bringing in a liquefied or compressed natural gas ship in to fill all of the cruise ships that come into Manhattan, and that was like what the, that was a big deal because that has never been done in New York City. But it turns out that this stuff is being done in suburban, rural, and extra rural areas regularly, and I hope it's an eye-opening experience for a lot of the listeners that are, or watchers now, that are out there checking out this show. I got to say thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you for sharing this information, for sharing the pictures, the visuals. I have to really, what an incredible job. Watching that video of those guys doing each one of those cylinders, it really, that was
kudos.
That was kudos.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you
for
very
the
much.
opportunity.
All right, guys, we'll catch you guys soon. Goodbye.